Hello. So imagine if time slowed down for you, right? Imagine if you're going the speed of light. This is Albert Einstein's story, by the way. But imagine you're going the speed of light and time slows down. And you could do anything for, let's say, 30 years and it'll feel like 2 days. Okay, no, it'll feel like 2 hours. What would you do with your time? Well, I think you know what I will do with mine. I have a book problem, it seems. But anyways, my name is Amos Tarfa, Amos the math guy. I love math, I love reading, I love learning. I believe that we're created in the image of God and given different tools and different gifts. And by God's grace, my gift has to do with enriching people's minds, encouraging them to grow, encouraging them to flourish with the gifts God has given them. But I also love mathematics. And so I have a book called Tools for Mastering Mathematics right here, which you can order from my website. And then I also have these other books written by Dr. Chris McMullen that you can order from my website as well. The one up here, the first one is called Fractions, Decimals, and Percents. You'll realize that it's important for us to have booklets that focus on specific topics. This one is on trig identities, and then there's some on calculus, which is an excellent workbook if you're going into the fall. Anyways, I love books, and if you want to order books from my bookstore, you're more than welcome to do that. But in this video, I want to talk to you about how all these books that I would love to read. If I had all the time and I could read 50 books this summer, these are the books that I will read. Now, I am not guaranteeing that I will be able to read 50 books this summer, but what if you read some of these books and then you told me what you thought about it, especially if these are books that you're interested in. So what I'm going to do is, if you want the list of books right here, you can actually go to the thumbnail on my YouTube channel called Counting to Calculus, and you can see the different books on the thumbnail, or you can just email me, amosthemathguy@gmail.com, and I'll send you the list. What are these books about? Well, they are biographies of people like Teddy Roosevelt, the Wright brothers, Joseph in the Bible by Professor John Lennox, and on and on and on. And so the idea is that as I read these books, or as people read these books and share what they're learning, we are all encouraged together. I think that we live in a day and time with so much distraction that we don't carve out deliberate time to read good books. We need to do more of that. We need to read good books. So let's go through a few books that are sort of high on my list, even from this list. One of them is a book by Jason Riley called Maverick, about Thomas Sowell, his life, right? Thomas Sowell is going to be 94 on the 30th of June, on Sunday. So happy birthday in advance to Dr. Thomas Sowell. He's a professor of economics, or his doctorate is in economics, and he's at the Hoover Institute at Stanford University. His story is very inspirational in the sense that he got his PhD at like 40, and he has published 40 books since then. He was willing to think outside the box, just like Einstein. I'm going to read you a little bit from Einstein. This is the other book here, Einstein's Greatest Mistake, that is high on my list. So I'm going to read a little bit from this one. But before I do that, let me see if there's any other one I want to highlight for you. There's a lot of biographies here, a lot of books on Christian apologetics, The Return of the God Hypothesis, The Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, John Lennox, Against the Flow. So these are great books. Then there's also books on math education and math policy, like The Math Fix. So that's a great one to look at. Understanding Mathematics from Counting to Calculus, which goes with the theme of my math curriculum. And then over here, we have books like R.G. Letourneau's book. I'll be teaching at Letourneau University this fall too, by the way. Thank God for the opportunity. Quick side note, if you don't mind. At Letourneau University, students can get, so these are high school students from all across the country, people outside, from wherever, can take online courses in math and science and English and history. And you can get up to 60 college credits before you graduate high school. That is so cool. And I'm going to be facilitating that through the dual enrollment program connected to my business. So reach out if you have a high schooler who wants to get college credit. That was a quick plug there for the dual enrollment program. Okay, so these are some of the different books here. We have books on how to learn, how to become an engineer. I already talked about Dr. Thomas Sowell. He wrote a book called Discrimination and Disparities, and he does a great job of reminding us of the fallacy of equity or equal outcomes, which has its fallacy. So you can look into that. David McCullough was a boss. David McCullough wrote this book called Mornings on Horseback. The story of Teddy Roosevelt, as well as the Wright brothers. Fascinating. That Wright brothers book is actually high on my list. So, what are the top 5 books this summer then for Amos? Einstein's Biggest Mistake, Anti-Fragile by Nassim Taleb. I'm going to read through that partly because of The Coddling of the American Mind by Jonathan Haidt that talks about the anti-fragile. Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. We have Thomas Sowell, Discrimination and Disparities, and I think that should be a good load. What do you think? And 2084 by Dr. John Lennox. Those are some of my top picks. But let's quickly read about Einstein and then we'll call it a day. What do you think? Okay, so Albert Einstein, as you know, was born in 1879, the same year that James Clerk Maxwell was born. James Clerk Maxwell died. So James Clerk Maxwell dies in 1879. Albert Einstein is born that same year. This interesting thing that happened there, again, I don't believe in reincarnation, but I just think this is interesting. This interesting thing that happened also happened in 1642. The year that Galileo died was the year that Isaac Newton was born. Galileo's work helped Newton do what he did. James Clerk Maxwell's work helped Albert Einstein do what he did. When they asked Einstein, whose shoulders do you stand on? Do you stand on the shoulders of Newton? Einstein actually said, no, I stand on the shoulders of Maxwell. James Clerk Maxwell was a boss. Oh, which leads me to Maxwell's book is over here somewhere. There's a book on Maxwell right there. Maxwell, Faraday, and the electromagnetic field. Man, there's some cool books out there. Okay, so here's what's interesting about Einstein. Einstein made a mistake. Let's talk about it for a second. The author of this book, David Bodanis, was an instructor at Oxford University. He studied mathematics, physics, and history. Oh boy, that combo right there, that's expensive. I mean, the only thing missing from math, physics, and history is probably him not studying electrical engineering and computer science. I mean, if you add that in the mix, that's like gold right there. If I could study, like get a major, it would be computer science, electrical engineering, math, physics, and history. Oh boy, with theology in there. So that's like gold. Which, by the way, Latrono University in Texas has those degrees. Anyways, moving back to my passage here. So here's what it says. In Princeton, 1953, the tourists generally stayed on the sidewalk across the street from the white clapboard house on Mercer Street. It was hard to keep down their excitement once they spotted the old man walking slowly from the university campus, often wearing a long cloth coat, and if the New Jersey wind was especially sharp, a dark knit cap over his famous unruly hair. The bravest tourists sometimes crossed over to say how much they admired him or asked for his autograph. Can you imagine living or seeing Albert Einstein walking down the street? That's so cool. But not everybody wanted to hang out with Einstein. His colleagues actually didn't necessarily want to hang out with Einstein. What happened? In 1915, Einstein had just created a significant equation, or magnificent equation, not as famous as E is equal to mc squared, that had come 10 years earlier in 1905, but something even more powerful. The equation at the heart of what is now called the general relativity. He had come up with this equation, 1915. Remember, this is World War I is happening during this time. It was one of the finest achievements of all time, as great as the works of Bach or Shakespeare. Einstein's 1915 equation had just two central terms, yet it would reveal unimagined features of space and time, explaining black holes in the universe and technologies such as GPS. Einstein was overwhelmed by what he had discovered. My boldest dreams have now come true, he wrote to his best friend that year. Yes, physicists can have best friends too. I have some best friends. But his dreams were soon interrupted. 2 years on, in 1917, he realized that astronomical evidence about the shape of the universe seemed to contradict his general theory of relativity. Unable to account for this discrepancy, he dutifully modified his new equation, putting in an additional term that destroyed its simplicity. As it turned out, the compromise was only temporary. Some years later, fresh evidence proved that his original and beautiful idea had been correct. But Einstein reinstated his original equation. He called his temporary modification the greatest blunder of my life, for it had destroyed the beauty of his original simple equation of 1915. Yet, while that modification had been Einstein's first big mistake, his greatest error was still to come. See, part of what the error comes down to is sometimes we do something, we get it right, and we're ready to go, but then later on we find out that, oh no, this thing I'm doing here now might not be working out, but in the past, when I thought something wasn't working out, and then it worked out, I should have stuck with my original plan, right? Well, what happened is that later on, Einstein had other things that he did, and one of them led to a blunder where he held firm. Let me read a little bit more. Einstein felt that he had been wrong to follow such faulty experimental evidence, that he should have simply held his nerve till the astronomers realized they had been mistaken. So he should have waited for other people to realize that they were mistaken. This strong-headedness of Einstein, when it came to a different topic, is what really cost him a lot of friends or sort of relationships. Niels Bohr even encouraged him and begged him to reason. Remember Niels Bohr? That guy was a boss too. Anyways, Let's be careful then as we learn from, like, listen to other people and taking what they have to say about situations. We don't want to be so strong-headed that we don't listen to others, right? Einstein's ability to be persistent, right? He talks about this. He says that he has the persistence of a mule. He's very persistent, but that persistence can get us in trouble if we are persistent about things that we might be wrong about. Community helps. Having people around us help, right? I'm excited to learn about Einstein's story. Nobody's perfect, we know that. But I think collaboration is a very important thing. And if we can, we should strive to collaborate. So that's part of why I'm going to collaborate with you, right? You might help me read some of these books and then tell me what you learned. Maybe either through videos or short notes, and just say, Amos. And I know there's AI that can do this, but here's part of the catch. I want to encourage our young people especially to read. When they have free time, daily in the summer, they should dedicate time to reading good books. Biographies, so that they learn from the mistakes of others. Stories like Teddy Roosevelt, where they learn about how to handle suffering. I forgot there's one last book here, Business Made Simple. I've learned that business is a skill, and so I'm going to learn that from Donald Miller. Let me know what you think. What are some books that you're reading this summer? I look forward to sharing more with you from the Einstein book and some of the other books that I read this summer. Well, let's go begin our reading. I'll start with Einstein and I'll be in touch. So thanks for watching this video. Feel free to subscribe for more videos like this. This is going to launch us into a podcast called the STEM Excellence Podcast. That will be taking off in July. But I hope this gives you a sneak peek where we'll be talking about science history, math history, science and education policy, and how we can transform American education. Amos Tarfa is here to help. AmosTheMathGuy.com. AmosTheMathGuy.com has my courses if you want to sign up for any of them, or for tutoring services in math and science. Take care and have a blessed day.